Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody to another episode of High Low News. Today is a special edition. We're doing a mashup with Refresh Miami, and I wanted to profile some Black people in the community doing dope things and doing some great things in the tech and entrepreneurship space. And this person today that I'm bringing on, he embodies that. He's all about it, and you guys need to know his story and what he does in the community. Without further ado, I want to bring on the great, the incomparable, the dope, Mike Hall. What's
What's
up,
up? What's up? I'm good.
Mike?
How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy, schedule. I know you do so much, but I felt like your story was an important one to tell, especially when it comes to startups, entrepreneurship, and the tech industry. With this partnership that I have with Refresh Miami and telling those stories, I was like, who else better than to have than Mike? So thank you for
Appreciate
joining
that.
me.
Appreciate that. No problem.
So I want to dive right in. For people who may not know you, I know you wear a lot of hats, but can you tell me about your professional background and then also what led you to South Florida? Because I know you're not originally from here. So can you tell me about that story?
So I was in grad school at North Carolina State University, getting my master's in fine arts, focus in graphic design. Then I came and worked in. Well, I was there. Much longer story, but I had a personal situation that made me realize I need to come back to South Florida. And so going through that situation, and when I say come back to South Florida, I just need to be in the state of Florida, which is where my family is at. So I wanted to
Okay.
move back down, but my hometown, which was in the Panhandle, there were no jobs there, and I had kind of outgrown careers there. Most of the jobs there were $36,000, $40,000, so it's kind of like I'm gonna have a glass ceiling real quick. So I always had a business on the side, but I wasn't really thinking about being a full-time entrepreneur at that part of my life. So South Florida was where it was at. That was right around the time most people be too young to remember this, but um, that was right around the time where Diddy, Loon, Tigger, and everybody started doing a lot of events on South Beach, and South Beach kind
Yeah.
of became the go-to place. That was right when a couple of years after Will Smith had dropped Welcome to Miami, and Miami started becoming a lively place, not just for dope boys and retirees. And so I was like, I could probably make something happen in South Florida. So I did West Palm Beach. West Palm Beach didn't work out. I think that was Hurricane Andrew. I was the program director at the only Black museum at the time, which was the Jenkins House in West Palm Beach. And so I went over to Naples for 2 years, spent 2 years in Naples, and you know how Naples is. Built the nightlife over there. I was over there before they ever had a Walmart in Naples. Built the nightlife
What?
over there. Yeah, it was crazy. And became a promoter over there. Did a lot of graphic design work, worked for agencies, and I just started noticing. Didn't understand mortgages or even houses at that point, but I just realized that when I was doing my events, my real estate agents had about 7 or 8 bottles. We were closing on 10 houses in a week, and I was like, "Yo, something ain't right." I didn't understand that market. You know what I'm saying? I just knew in my soul something wasn't right to be making that kind of money selling houses that fast. And then one of my bartenders was buying their second house, looking at the third house, because that's when they had
Wow.
that variable mortgage. And I was like, something's gonna happen. This makes no sense because I'm living in assisted living at the time, which was one of the best apartments I've ever had because it was everything was new over there. So I just packed up and I called Dante because Dante was then getting his master's at Savannah. And I was like, we're not opening a business in Naples. It's like, don't you know somebody over in Fort Lauderdale? Yeah, one of our strategic business partners. Shout out to Anthony Jackson, that runs that
Oh,
room.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
Anthony
know.
has clients. Dante used to do work for him. So we packed it up and came over here. And that's how we ended up here.
Wow. Man, and that was, your story sounds like the Big Short. I saw that that movie recently, and they were saying that like the real estate agents were like balling out of control. So you kind of saw that from afar. Like,
I
how
saw
did
it
that
up close and personal.
well, up close?
Yeah.
How did that affect you? Like as far as business, and I feel like even doing business in South Florida, because even in the movie they highlighted like Miami. Did that affect how you would do business in South Florida?
Yeah, it shaped how we did business because at that point, a lot of agencies were still they were billing people by the project. And that was the first time I had worked with an agency that was billing by the hour, and they had First Homes as a client, and they were on a $20,000 a month retainer. This is for a construction company building houses. $20,000 a month retainer, and every month we went over on that retainer. We always had overages. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, this is how you run an agency. And that was Christopher Foss, and I forgot the other guy's name. It was called Devious Designs. It was real dope. We all wore black suits all the time, just dressed. It was totally different. It shaped how I saw how money moved. That's when I kind of started learning I was more than a designer, and I was getting into marketing and business development. But for some reason, I couldn't design good over there because, like you said, my mind was wondering, like, what's the long-term goal? And not trying to be funny, but over there, if you weren't in Fort Myers, there was like 10 to 15 successful Black people. So that success circle was real small.
Wow.
Yeah, so my boss was the husband of the granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway. Put it that way if you want to think about money.
Yeah. Wow, that's old money.
Yeah.
Long money.
Kind of fine money.
So from there, when did you launch Medium 4 in Digital Grass? And they're two separate entities, right? But I guess, can you tell me that entrepreneurial story from like launching those companies?
So I had Footprints Unlimited. Dante had Cyber Ballhead Communications. And so we were both doing like two different things. So
and Dante's your business partner, just so people know.
Yeah, Dante's my business partner in pretty much every venture I'm in. So we did that, and it was just like, we're going to work in 4 different mediums, and 4 mediums sounded stupid. So literally the name just became Medium 4. That's where it came from.
That's how y'all got the name?
Yeah.
What? Okay. I always thought it was a dope name, but I was like, I don't know, it just sounds cool and trendy. Medium 4. Interesting.
To tell you the truth, we wanted something that didn't have to sit ethnic wise. As I called it, it wasn't the Scriptina font, and it didn't put us into a box. And when I say with brands, we didn't want to build a brand that typecast us, or when you looked at it, it was like, oh, that's a Black marketing agency. Because we primarily focus on minority companies, Black-owned companies, but that's not the only thing we work with. So we didn't want to get typecast. So we were like, all right, you know what? Let's make it simple. Because also we were trying to make money, so we didn't want to put a lot of time into developing the logo. So Medium 4, and the logo has always been 4 bars, real simple, and 1 bar was shorter than the other to make the letter M, and it's just 4 bars. So that was the Medium 4 logo, and that was it.
Love it. When did you guys launch that officially?
2006. So we're going on our 15-year anniversary in June. It was
nice.
Oddly enough, it was a newer alpha, so it kind of worked out. But it was 06. June 6, 2006.
Wow, that's the year I graduated high school, and I think around that date. That's crazy. Man, and what has that journey been like for you guys since, like, what would you say that pivotal moment where you're like, okay, we've made it, like we passed that point of like the grind? Because I've known you for maybe I think like 10 years now, but like tell me like that point for you guys, like where it's like, okay, yeah, we hit that mark. Because I feel like every business has that point.
2 points would be not starving and being able to go out to eat dinner. Like that would be a big point. That's still the biggest point. That and being able to sleep in a comfortable bed. I remember buying new mattresses.
See, we're gonna have to have a sidebar on that, because people don't like to talk about that part of the entrepreneurial journey. Like,
most people don't tell the truth. Most people lie about the struggle and the support they get. My parents were always supportive, but they were going through their own things at that time of my life when we were going through the biggest pivot. So I couldn't expect much. Like I was literally getting assets because of a divorce, which I didn't know that till I got much older. But yes, went from an air mattress to sleeping in a king size California bed. That was step 1. Step 2 would definitely be not starving and everything else. Step 3, I guess the biggest pivotal moment, which happened actually during the pandemic, was when paying taxes equated to what my salary used to be at one point in my life.
Wow.
That's when it kind of hit. You know what I'm saying? When I realized I was going to have to pay in taxes what I once used to make in a yearly salary. That's when I was like, okay, it's time to start thinking different, because you get to that point where making $50,000, $100,000 is just as easy as making $5,000 or $10,000. It's just picking your car.
Wow. That's good. I guess, can you tell me, where does Digital Grass play into all of that? And I know Tech Beats and Bytes is a part of Digital Grass. So tell me, like, how all these worlds collide.
So probably 8 years into me, we had a little thing that a lot of people don't know about. It was called Medium Forward, and it was our way of becoming investors, where we would offer the marketing, digital design services, packaging, everything you could think about from a marketing standpoint to a company for small equity in their company. A lot of people didn't get that, and a lot of people didn't see the value of the marketing and everything else. So some people kind of bought into it, but we never really knew how to do the paperwork. So we always knew we were going to be investors in some way, shape, or form. But then the tech scene was coming around, but we had already developed a platform that everybody's kind of doing now for diversity and inclusion. We have developed a platform called Gateway Software Development, which was to rank and score diversity and inclusion from a procurement side, which 8 years later, we're just now redoing that project, and it's coming back up. We had developed a platform called Pretty Fresh that was going to be the distribution of plants and fruits and vegetables. Although they didn't look pretty to be on the shelves, they were still fresh and edible. So we were going to give those away and put them in the boxes, which is now known as food sourcing. And then we had a platform called Ear Card, which I pitched when I still had my job, which led me to quit get fired. I didn't quit. I got fired from my last job. We had a platform called Ear Card, which was entertainment artists and rewards. So it was a card that you carried around, and you would get an email that would lead you to a website that would list all the discounts, coupons, and accessories you would get by having that card. Later was known as Groupon. I actually pitched it to the Sun Sentinel and that platform, and they told me it would never work. They told me the Sunday newspaper wasn't going away, and all this stuff. And they were like, we're gonna just pass on it for right now. And I was like, okay. So they decided they was going to pass on it, and then I got fired maybe a month later. I thought I was training 2 people because our division was growing. I was pretty much training 2 people to take my position because I was doing the work of almost 3 people. So I got fired. Right after I got fired, that's when Groupon got like that $50 million evaluation, and I sent them a letter thanking them for firing me and letting me explore my own, and I've never had a job since.
Wow. That's, first of all, you named a few things where you were like ahead of the curve before it hit. You were like already thinking in that wave, and to me, it kind of like plays into like how you're so much of an advocate for like diversity and startups here. It's almost like, to me, it's like you champion like what's new, what's hot, but also what's Black, and like having that inclusion and equity in this market. Can you tell me like what inspired you to do that and to be that voice? Because to me, you're like one of those change makers, and those people, like when you say something, when it comes in that startup tech entrepreneurship space, they're listening to you. Like, what made you step into that role from being like the business owner to like more of an advocate?
My father. It's a real simple answer. My father did it. That's actually how I got into engineering, design, and business. My father put together a program where he would recruit from Alabama, Georgia, and Florida young Black high school students to get admitted to Tuskegee University for a program called the MITE, Minorities in Tech and Engineering. So he had this program, and he kept building the program to the point where the program got recognized and he got an award from the Pentagon. So I've been doing diversity and inclusion since I was in the 11th grade. I just didn't know that's what it was called. And so the way my father set it up was you would come into the program. It's like a 8-week program. You did it in the summertime. So you're talking about most of us are coming from Panama City, Boynton Beach. So a lot of my friends that I know from down here, I initially met them at this program. So he recruited throughout the state. And so you're coming from city life in theory. And now you're spending 8 weeks in Tuskegee, Alabama, Tuskegee University, where there was 2 to 3 channels, no clubs, nothing to do. And we learned AutoCAD, we learned engineering platforms. You had to study, so you learned about Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, which I had already knew all that stuff because all of my family went to Tuskegee University. So he built that program, and it's kind of one of those things you never realize who you admire and how much you admire someone until you realize your actions reflect their actions. So I just naturally did what I saw my father do, and I did it everywhere from the whole different conversation, but I will admit it. I did it everywhere from the entertainment to the adult entertainment industry, all the way to tech. I've done diversity and inclusion in the adult entertainment market to make sure that Black adult entertainers were getting paid equal value to white adult entertainers. And for those that want to be clear, I'm literally talking about the porn industry, because a lot of stuff that's going on with technology. I always say this to people to kind of soften up when I have to say I did stuff in the porn industry, because I just did the marketing and stuff like that. But if you think about the first things you've ever streamed, I guarantee you know somebody that streamed a full movie or a full clip or a porn before they ever watched a TV show on the internet. So those speeds were built because of that industry. There's nothing that sells at a higher gross. And so if you think whatever you think the numbers of a blockbuster movie does, multiply that by 3 when you think about the porn industry.
Wow. And I've heard that about the porn industry or the adult entertainment industry, that they have like been pioneers on the forefront of a lot of tech.
That's the reason why you got DVDs. It was easier to produce DVDs than the VHS. VHS was bulky, and back then you had collectors. So you got to think, you got a box like this, that thick, then you get to bring it down to something that's a 1/4 of an inch thing. Easier for shipping, easier for costs. Also easier to hide and be discreet about it. That's why Blu-ray and HD never took off. The boxes were too big. The collectors were like, "No, I don't want that around my house." Internet space. We weren't streaming CNN and all that stuff before people were streaming porn.
That's true.
YouTube, all that stuff. So that's where all those things come from. And they are a leader, but they develop a lot of stuff. They were shooting 4K before the movie industry was, because they needed stuff to be as realistic as possible. They were shooting digital. The only person that shot digital in the movie industry before the porn industry was Spike Lee. Spike Lee was shooting digital before anybody else. Yeah, Spike Lee was a pioneer in that industry. So yeah, it was stuff like that. And then I did it with the legal world. I did it with lawyers, with the National Bar Association, trying to get the corporate lawyers to give a percentage of their big law cases to Black-owned firms, which they're supposed to do, but most of them don't. I've helped my dad do it more in engineering and cybersecurity. So when I met people, was LaToya, Brian Burkeen, and Felicia Hatcher, and Sophia Nelson. It used to always be at these events, them, me, and Dante, and they kept seeing them. And then also Anne-Marie Sorrell. And so it was just like, we need to put together our own little coalition to make something happen. So we did Digital Grass and Grow because we were primarily in Broward and Palm Beach. Really Digital Grass, and Felicia and Derek ended up doing Black Tech Week. So that's why a lot of times when people talk about stuff, we never work against each other. We always strategically had to work with each other, but we were focused on different parts of the cities.
Wow, interesting. I had no idea about all of that background that you have in the tech industry and the startup industry here in South Florida. For you, you know, the conversation has been about Miami. All eyes are on Miami, the tech boom. All these startups are coming to Miami. Like, what do you wish you saw when you see that conversation? Or what do you feel like is something missing from that conversation?
If I had to sum it up, don't sell your wood when you can help build a table. I think we have an opportunity, but you got to go in there and present your value. And the reason why I say don't sell your wood, I'm thinking about how the plywood industry is right now, where plywood is going up 300%. A sheet of plywood that used to cost $30 is selling for $90. And so they have less workers and everything else is causing the plywood to go up, the processing and everything else. So sometimes you got to hold on to your assets and know your value. And the value of diversity is not just the value of our culture and the richness of our culture. It's also the changes and the difference in perspectives and the things you need. So a successful business is by fulfilling a want, desire, or a problem. You know, we only buy things for two reasons in life: to bring us pleasure or for the absolute need of survival. It's, you know, it's one or the other. So when you see the problems, you have to come up with a solution. So I think we're in a position where we have to know what problems we have, but offer the solutions and not just pass them off, and then find a way for those problems to see how much more universal they are. To not segregate ourselves and say, "Oh, I'm fixing this for Black people." Now, fix the core, and it may happen to target and help Black people even more. You know, Nike didn't say we're going to make shoes for a Black athlete. Nike said we're going to make shoes for people that love basketball. And then when they said that love basketball as a lifestyle, so they built the Jordan brand. You know, so sometimes you have to stay rich to your culture and rich to your intent, because we shouldn't feel guilty for saying that we're looking out for ourselves. I've never met a Jewish man tell me he's not going to look out for another Jewish community. I've never met a Muslim man that said he's not going to look out for the Muslim community. I've never met a white man that said he's not going to look out for his community. So we shouldn't feel guilty saying, as a Black man, I'm going to look out for the Black community. That's me looking out for my roots and my ancestors and everybody that put me here. But it doesn't mean I'm limited to that. I'm going to work with whatever it takes to make money. It's up to me what I do when I build that empire and I make that money. It's up to me to make the change that I want to see made. I can't put that responsibility on somebody else. So, and also, I would say with this movement, you still got to know your place. You know, if you're not comfortable in the room, meet somebody that'll teach you or to show you around. But we got to strategically work together. The money's here. I think the new number is $65 billion. It's already come to South Florida since 2021. I mean, some of the rooms I'm in, these deal flows, we got unicorn companies. So the stuff you see in the news, I'm normally seeing it 3 to 5 days in advance.
Wow.
And it's all there. And they're open about it. We got to be the same way.
Man, you know, I wanted to ask you, as a Black business owner, as a startup in South Florida, and I want to take advantage of what's going on, but I don't know where's that first place that someone should begin. What would you say that advice would be to them? Because, you know, the conversation I hear a lot from, and, you know, we've talked about it, you hear it. It's almost like I see it from afar. I don't even know how to, you know, get into that space. It just seems like such a separate thing. It's like, that's the South Beach, Wynwood, Brickell thing. And we're over here across the bridge in Liberty City, Miami Gardens, North Miami, like not, you know, engaging with it. Like what would be like, I guess, the first thing someone should do to get involved? Because it's like you said, it's out there. It's up to us to, you know, be active, but like some people may not know where to begin. So where would you say they should begin that first step?
I would say remove the grout of the mosaic and make the glass clash and combine themselves. And what I mean by that is, don't keep moving in silos. You most likely, if you look at your life, you've been moving in silos for the last 10 years, and those silos will only get you so far. So when I say remove the grout from the mosaic, you think about a mosaic glass panel where you see all these different colors, and it looks beautiful when it's all together. When you're from afar, but when you get up close, you see this ugly grout that's breaking it apart. That's how our community is. We're diverse. We got all this color, all these different things, but it's mosaic, and those grouts come with little lines. 95 is a grout. I-90, 195, 395, Northwest 27, 135th. You know, we have these Coconut Grove, City, Miami Gardens, 595, Broward County line. You have these different grouts that are full that people like, I can't go past it, or I don't want to go into that. Break the grout, get uncomfortable, and go places you normally don't go. But make sure it's relative to what you're doing. You don't have to be everywhere, but you do need to be where it's going to be important to you. And we have to. I'm sorry, I'm kind of switching topics because I think most
It's
of the
okay.
people we're talking about, they're already doing the work. They're just not diversifying their work to the point where we're not making the right ask.
Mm,
They're not going to give us nothing for free. We can get over that. Suck it up. That's not going to happen. You will have to work 3 times as hard to get the same level of respect. Is it right? No. We just know that's what it is. The thing is, once you have broken those boundaries, you don't have to make somebody that comes in behind you go through the same thing you went through.
mm,
So
yeah.
that's the pain and suffering of being a leader. I have found myself in positions to say things that other people are afraid to say. I have found myself in a position to say names that other people were afraid to say. But that's because I have a business that's not relying upon grants and being friends with people. That's based off of pure talent. I can do a whole website and never have to talk. I can do a whole logo and never, you don't have to get to know me personally. That is a 25-year skill that I've developed that I'm willing to challenge anybody at and say I'm good at it. Am I the greatest? No, but I'm good, I'm effective, and we don't miss deadlines. But when it comes to that other stuff, that's other people's money. You're talking about investors. They got to like you. You got to know to talk. You got to have a hobby that you can break the grounds with. A lot of people were like, oh, going through the pandemic and you're collecting cars. No, I was sitting still and making investments because a Nissan 280Z is a groundbreaking conversation with an older white man that used to drive one when he was 17 years old.
Mm.
So when he sees that car, we have something to talk about. He's not going to talk to me about Jordans. He don't care about sneakers. But he might talk to me about Stan Smith because the Stan Smiths came out when he was a kid, and he remember when Stan Smith played tennis, and he plays tennis, and he's wondering, why am I wearing tennis shoes and not sneakers? That's the difference. I'm not wearing sneakers. I'm wearing tennis shoes. So how do you move? You can't just come in a room and demand attention if you have nothing to say. It's a difference between being heard and being noisy. Some people are noisy. Some people are there to be heard. I want to be heard. I don't just want to be noisy.
Now, Mike, what do you say to people? Because I love the point that you just made. What do you say to people who say, well, if I got to wear tennis shoes and not sneakers, if I got to, figure out what they're doing, why can't I just show up as my Black, unapologetic self in these spaces and they just accept me? And if they don't, then I don't want to deal with them anyway. Like, what do you say to that person? Because I hear those two train of thoughts and I feel like I like to gray that line. Like if I need to, bend, I will, and I don't mind. But I know some people who are like, I don't want to change myself. I don't feel like I need to do that for the white man money or the white man this, and that approval. Like, what do you say to that?
I mean, I don't think you have to be yourself, but know that being whoever you are might come with limitations of how you relate to people. So being myself, do I listen to Bob Dylan? No. But do I know the whole song, My Guitar Weeps, because Prince played the song in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Yeah. So if I'm riding around listening to My Guitar Weeps, even though I'm listening to the live version to hear Prince do his riff, that might be a conversation I can have with somebody. But if I'm riding around listening to Rick Ross, I might not be able to have that conversation. You should always be authentic to who you are, but you should always be willing to diversify who you are. I go to meetings in Stan Smith's, Adidas socks, sweater shorts, a t-shirt, and one of my brand's hat. That's my uniform. And if somebody has something to say about it, this is how I make my money. Are you here to do a fashion consultation, or are we here to make money? But at the same time, when it gets to a certain level of money, I might throw in some slacks. But I purposely chose my shoe because it's like a fast casual shoe. Like, it's not the high-end restaurant, but it's also not fast food. So it looks good with slacks on. And once you put the t-shirt on, now if I want to go into Jay-Z mode, all I do is throw on a jacket with the shirt, So it doesn't mean you can't be who you are, but you also don't get to show up at an interview looking like trash.
That's true.
So there's a difference between authentic and disrespectful. Even though you run your business, you're still always applying for a job in some way, shape, or form.
That's true. I totally agree. And on the inverse, if someone stepped into a Black space, a non-Black person in the Black space, and they tried to come in, taking over and doing what they do and not even trying to understand the culture, we'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, yeah, so it goes both ways. As much as we don't like, to admit it goes both ways.
Yeah, I mean, you can be professional. You can be a business person. I think sometimes people confuse being ghetto with being authentically black. You know,
That's true.
now, but on the other side, to me, the ghetto is nothing but untapped talent that hasn't been stolen from us. Why every once in a while, still go to Six Trunk, still go to certain areas that might be a depopulated or underserved community to some. That's a museum of beauty to me. You just go there. Whatever's gonna happen next, they already doing it in the hood. But the
That's
messed up
true.
part is it leaves the hood, it goes somewhere else, it becomes popularized. So we were wearing Champion before Supreme got on Champion, but then Supreme made Champion a multi-million-dollar thing. So we normally set the trends without owning the trends. So I always tell people, if you want to know how important your culture is, go to a cheesecake factory, or I forgot some of these other restaurants, even World of Beer. Listen to the music. That's us. They're normally playing hip hop, some R&B, old school. That's us. Nobody wants to listen to rock and roll like that no more.
That's true.
You know? You go listen to these stores, you walk into a Victoria's Secret, you got Rihanna in the background. That's us. You know, they love our culture more than they love us sometimes. And that's what comes with the territory. You got to remember, the people that built this land, they stole the land from the same people they killed, and then gave them Thanksgiving Day and told them thanks and put them into little silos and gave them casinos. That's the country we live in. And you don't get to break decades and centuries of psychological ways of thinking where you can still call a black man lazy when he was a slave that built this country for you. Where does the laziness come from?
Exactly.
So you don't get to dictate the culture, versus sometimes you just got to know how to move in a room. You know, a street fighter may never stand a chance with a boxer in a ring. And there's a reason. That boxer is skilled and trained to throw a jab and a hook, to dodge and duck and everything else. Now, if y'all fight outside of the ring, you might kill him. But in that ring, it's a whole different thing. So you got to think of it as boxing. When you at home, when you in the streets, when you with your people, you outside of the ring. But when you come into that ring, you still got to put on the same gloves. You still got to have a stance, and you got to train. You got to train. Bobbing and weaving. That's the training.
Man, that's good, Mike. I got goosebumps because it's just real shit though. Like, it's stuff that conversation that we need to have. And I appreciate you for breaking it down for us. I feel like a lot of people going to get some good stuff out of this, and I appreciate your honesty, your authenticity, and your story, because I feel like there's something there to learn. I want people to know, if they want to follow you, if they want to support what you're doing, whether it's Medium 4, Digital Grass, Tech Beats and Bites, what's the best place to reach you, and how can they follow you and support you?
I mean, I'm like Pusha T and everybody else. Go listen to my old shit first before you come at me. We got 4 years of stuff that you can go watch, because people are like, what the new stuff? Wasn't nothing happening last year for me to talk about. Everybody was in a pandemic. It's something to talk about now. So it's time to bring the show back. But at Michael Hall TM, everywhere, every platform. At DigiGrass, everywhere, every platform. At Medium 4, everywhere, every platform, except Instagram. Somebody took it from it. So it's medium period FOUR. But we're everywhere, and it's just follow the content, follow the stories. So we're trying to make a change, but you know, that's the reason why when I talk to you, like, if you're gonna speak, know what you're gonna say and say it consistently. Because what I realized this year, Janae, even when you don't think they listening, they paying attention.
I've learned that. And we had some conversation offline about that.
you got to be mindful and be willing to step to the plate for anything you say. And the one thing I would say that I appreciate about myself, there's nothing you're going to be able to pull. Remember when you said that, how you feel about it now? I'm probably going to feel the exact same unless it changed. My only thing is to hold people accountable. I have to think about what I say. I have to monitor myself. My wife is a lawyer. There's always ethics around this household. So I got to move a certain way. My mom is a psychologist. My mom teaches me patience and to think things through. Because my natural mindset as a Gemini, I think the worst. Because if it's not great, it's going to be horrible. We don't have a lot of middle grounds as a Gemini. My personality doesn't come up with a lot of middle ground. But that balance of life, learning to celebrate the small wins, understanding that the failure may have been a lesson, not just the failure, or the failure may have been an avoidance from something bad. We have an opportunity to do something great, and it takes doing this with you. I don't care how busy I am. If I say I want to make a change, I should be able to sit down and have this conversation with you. If I know you're going to pick up a torch somewhere where I can never take it, or not even a torch. If I lit a flame for you and you going in a whole different direction, and I can see you over on the other side and you done lit that side up, hey, I at least gave some fuel to that fire. Keep going. Because I'm not going to be a journalist, but I need somebody else to tell the story. But I also need to, hey, Janey, you got to keep telling this story. They listen, keep talking. But I also got to be able to say, hey, you went too far there. I've done that before. You went too far. You're not going to get nothing from what you just put up. Take that post down, call somebody and have that conversation. That's what we need.
I love it. And it's all love. We can't take it personal either.
Like, I mean, we've had our conversations and I don't mind you questioning it. Hell, we just had one before we got on here. If we didn't have that conversation, you calling me 3 months later, like, oh, fam, you should have called. But a lot of times we don't offer that wisdom that we once wanted. So my biggest thing is, I'm 41 now. So the way I look at life, you get about 10 more years before you really peak out. Then at that point, I'm supposed to start enjoying life. I don't have enough time to execute all the ideas I have up here no more. So I'm not selfish with the creativity. I can't do it all. I'm running out of time. So when it comes to certain things, hey man, I got this idea. You should do it. Oh, you're going, no, I can't even help you. I don't even have enough time to help, but you should definitely do it. We can't be stingy.
Yeah.
Pass on some of that wealth. Pass on some, and that wealth is knowledge. It's not always money. Pass it on to somebody else. Let them execute it. You can't be the best rapper, the best R&B artist, the best. You can't be everything. And
That's
at
true.
this point, I want to be Hans Zimmer. And if people don't know who Hans Zimmer is, Hans Zimmer has done some of the best scores for the biggest movies you've ever watched. But nobody cares about the scores. But guess what? He get a check every time that movie runs. Y'all remember the actors. The actors ain't getting royalties, but Hans get a check every month for about 60 different movies. I want to be Hans Zimmer. You don't have to know me. I just want to help other people. And I just want you to know every time you hear something that say grow digital grass medium 4, I'm still collecting that check. That's all I want you to know.
Oh, and the score sets the tone. So you got to put, so you in the background, but you also, it's that
when
vibe.
A movie is quiet, when there's no words in a movie, the score tells the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you see what I was really trying to say.
Yeah.
You don't always have to hear
I got that.
if I can tell the story with nothing but the sound of music. So you may not see me. You may not know that I was there. Just like when you saw No Violence, whole platform in Miami Gardens, where the peace sign is the only sign, that was my artwork. I painted that picture. That billboard was my artwork. So you can say, oh, what you doing about violence in our community? I painted that piece. I helped run that program. So when you talk about the CRAs and community redevelopment, I've worked with 6 of them. I'm trying to stop gentrification. I told y'all to show up to county board meetings and the city commission meetings. I'm doing my part. Where were you?
Mm-hmm. Man.
So you saw the movie, but you don't know who produced the score. I want to be the score. Somebody else can make the movie.
That part. Man, Mike, you know what? It's always a pleasure. I'm like, I'll be forgetting we doing the interview. I'm like, let me just take all this in.
But that's why you record them now. You get to go back and watch them, break them down.
Man, this is good. I appreciate you for taking time out of your schedule again to speak with us, to drop some gems, tell your story. You know, I hope this is not the last time. I appreciate you for blessing High-Low News with this interview, because it means a lot to me.
My goal is to get you your own show on one of these platforms I'm working with. So keep developing your skills. You develop how you communicate. You develop your Q&A. I see you're actually putting in the pre-work that most people don't do, the research that matters. You're developing. The goal is I have to watch people. When you get to that next level, hey, Jay, I can't do this no more. You need to take this concept, incorporate it into yours, and let's work out. Because the biggest thing, I'm going to be the score. I need my producer credits, but this is your thing. Just don't fuck it up. But you got to go there. And then you'll make it your own. And then I get to sit back and take 5 or 10% and you running it. You know what I'm saying? But that's how you build an empire. To build an empire, you can't lay every brick.
That part. I appreciate that, Mike. Man, everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you again, Mike. It's a pleasure. And always, thank you guys for watching High-Low News. You guys have been dope. Have a good day. Bye.
Peace.